So we talk to a lot of organizations.
Yeah.
We've been talking to a lot of people. We're hearing all kinds of common problems. And so what we do at Lyft is we really kind of work through what those problems are. And why don't you tell us, like, what's some of the problems that you've heard about?
Well, definitely high turnover.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You know, definitely trying to retain employees that we've invested in or companies have invested in and have trained. That's definitely one of the major
Yeah,
challenges.
and that's a problem of, you know, something like teams that are just not functioning. They're just not hitting on all cylinders, right? Other things we hear about things like missed deadlines. We hear a lot of that. And again, that's teams just not quite functioning the way that they could be functioning. What else?
Oftentimes poor decision making or decision making that has a cost to the company. I mean, what is the cost of a bad decision?
Yeah.
It can be very significant.
I mean, we were just talking to somebody the other day that you told me this story about. It was a biomedical company that they had a refrigerator that was refrigerating like tell me the value of this vial of chemicals.
Millions of dollars.
And this refrigerator was purchased where? At some like high level.
Maybe like a Best Buy,
Okay, so
which is a great company.
and yeah, it's a great company, but that refrigerator went down, so they probably just put it in the backup fridge. Right?
No backup refrigerator.
So they had this 10 million. Okay, so that's a bad decision. So
The cost of that decision was millions of dollars.
for $1,000 in making a little bit better decision, you could have saved yourself millions and millions of dollars. That's the cost of a bad decision.
We know that many companies have a challenging colleague or they have a challenging employee, and
hear that a lot.
you're just not sure how to navigate that.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. Like, oh man, do we need to get rid of this person? Do we need to, move this person in a different position? What's going on? Maybe we need to help this person, coach them up a little bit.
Right. Blame, excuses, denial, and complaining. These are common elements that we hear from CEOs and leaders inside of organizations that provide such a challenge for leaders to navigate.
Yeah, and other things too, like just like low engagement in general, people that just like aren't really engaged in their work, or kind of the opposite, people that are almost resistant to growth and resistant to change, and I think that's as big a problem as somebody who's poorly engaged.
Right. And so a lot of teams, they have lack of clarity. They have a challenge around conflict on their team, and we hear a lot about that. And so part of what we do at Lyft is help elevate people so that we can elevate those team dynamics and work through some of that to get on the other side of productivity.
Yeah, you hear a lot about conflict and things like that. People say, well, we want to avoid conflict. It's like, well, I don't think we really want to avoid conflict, but we want the right kind
Leverage
of
it.
conflict. Yeah, exactly. When you have trust on teams, you can have that right kind of conflict, the conflict that actually moves you forward, moves you closer to your goals.
Yeah, exactly. And oftentimes that manifests itself in low morale inside the organization.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to lose people.
Yeah.
When you have that and it's not being taken care of, people decide, I'm tired of walking on eggshells. It is time for me to look for another place to work.
Yeah, that or if they stay, they just kind of feel like they don't have any dignity in what they're doing. They don't respect themselves. They don't respect each other. And that's kind of what we do, is we just sort of teach people how to lift each other up.
Another element we hear about is just the distrust that exists either on the team or with management, or just a lack of follow-through that happens with other team members or happens inside the organization. Challenges for people.
And when you don't have that follow-through, that builds more distrust, and it becomes kind of a cycle. And then when you don't have that trust, if you don't really trust each other, that creates that kind of conflict that we were talking about, that kind of conflict that like isn't productive. And if you really trust each other, when you build that trust, that's how you actually start moving towards your goals.
So good. And sometimes we have poor communication, or teams just don't have the right information, and they feel like, where's the respect in this process? How are we being honored in terms of our dignity when we don't know really, we don't have clarity about what's going on and what we're supposed to do next?
Yeah, so, just go ahead and fix all those things, and then you'll be a great
You'll be a great team.
That'll be
But
awesome.
those are the challenges that come to us that we hear a lot about.
Yeah, it's tough stuff.